Travis Hunter made the hard but correct decision at the NFL Combine.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that way you don't miss out on a moment of our coverage. We're talking about a lot of things all the time, whether it's quarterbacks, whether it's defense, whether it's offense, whatever it is, we're talking about it, right? And I think Colorado is one of the more interesting cases in the sport because there's always so much going on. And the thing that's happening right now is Travis Hunter is currently in the process of being questioned about everything, right? I think a lot of people want to know, how are we going to get an answer out of Travis Hunter about his potential position, right? Because everyone wants to know, will he be a receiver? Will he be a corner? What drills is he going to do at the combine to showcase X skills or X skills? And we learned today, Thursday, that is, that he's not going to be doing any of the drills. Now, I've been saying this for a long time, for about 2.5 weeks now, I would imagine, that he and Shedeur Sanders proved enough during the season that they don't really have anything to show at the combine that they couldn't have already shown already, right? I think teams outside of the interviews will have their opinions about them, good or bad. And I think where they would gain the most is in the interview room, right? You're going to have a chance to talk to coaches, GMs, scouts, whatever it is, and just let them pick you apart, right? I think that's sort of the name of the game of the combine is let the teams try to find your flaws and you show them why, hey, I have no flaws, or the flaw that you thought I had is not there, right? I think that's sort of the vibe for Colorado or for these guys at Colorado, because they're not really, I don't know. I feel like they're pretty good prospects at this moment, right? I don't think that they have a lot to prove, right? You win the Heisman, you win the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, you win the Defensive Player of the Year, and it's just one of those things where I think there's not much for you to show. And so one thing, I'll touch on this first. Travis Hunter decides not to participate in the combine. I like that. He's going to interview, which is good for him because I think that'll give him a good gauge on how teams view him or how teams plan to use him, because I do think that he, of all people, is going to need to have a unique strategy when the draft rolls around. If he is adamant about playing both ways, well, then you got to figure out a way to make that happen. 2, he is adamant about playing both ways, right? So let's hear what he had to say, because I think his answers, we're going to break down, we're going to overly dissect this. Let's dissect it together. So if you're in the comment section, get ready, get your listening ears on, because I think we're going to learn a lot from this, or at least what Travis Hunter has to say here.
I did some meetings at receiver, did some meetings at DB, so still up in the air. They say nobody has ever done it for real the way I do it, but I tell them that.
Right. And I think at the end there got cut off a little bit, but he's telling them, or he's talking about how people say that no one's ever played both ways the way he wants to, right? The examples are Charles Woodson, which he did it in college, kind of. Deion Sanders played a little bit of receiver, but not a lot. I think it was Patrick Peterson played a little bit of both ways. Mike Vrabel played a little bit of both ways, right? When guys play both ways at the NFL, it is usually gimmicky. It's like, okay, we're going to plug you in here for one play only, and you're just going to do your best on that play, and what happens, right? No, Travis Hunter wants to be full-time at both positions, which I think is where it gets difficult, because when you're full-time at 2 positions, that means you're part-time at 2 positions, right? Because you can't really be a full-time receiver or corner at the NFL, because either way, you're going to have to go to one meeting or the other. Now, they could move the meetings around and stuff like that. I just think it gets really complicated. That being said, I think the feedback he's getting, or at least from that comment, you guys let me know. I like to read into things in Portuguese. We love the drama, if you will. I'm reading into it, and I'm hearing teams are telling him they're at least concerned or hesitant to be like, yeah, we're going to let you play receiver or corner and corner, right? I think the best move for Travis and his people probably going to have to come up with a plan for yourself, right? Whether it's X amount of plays on this ball side of the ball or X amount of snaps, right? I don't know what the plan is, but I'm hearing him say teams are telling me that I don't do this or no one's done it like this before. And then he says he's interviewing a receiver or corner. That's telling me that teams are sort of, I don't know. Like, I don't think they're as open to the idea as he would have hoped. Right. And granted, this is what I tell everyone who asks me this, right? What if teams don't want him to play both ways? Well, guess what? All it takes is one team, right? It takes one team to fall in love with you for any player, really, in the entire draft. Whatever team that is, so whether it's the Bengals or the Raiders or whoever it is, just takes one team to fall in love with you. And then two, that one team, you have to communicate with them. So Travis Hunter, I think, has an interesting sort of journey ahead of him. That comment right there sort of tells me NFL teams are already laying the groundwork to not let him play both ways. That's what it tells me. I mean, I could be reading too much into it. And then there was another question where he was asked if he was going to play or if he was going to return kicks on punt or kickoff. And he was like, I already have two positions. I think two is enough or something like that. So I like how adamant he is about it. I think that's what's going to really keep this in play is his determination. Because if a team senses that he's wavering in a decision about playing both ways, I think that there is a possibility that they're going to be like, well, it doesn't really seem like you want to do it. So we're just going to pretend like that didn't happen. Right. So I think Travis Hunter really has to stay confident, stay strong in that belief that like, hey, I could do this, because realistically, if there is anyone who could do it, it's Travis Hunter. Right. He played, I think he averaged 112 snaps per game, had over 1,000 receiving yards, 11 pass breakups on defense. He had 16 total touchdowns, 15 through the air, 1 on the ground, and 4 picks. And he's great in man coverage. He's great in zone coverage. He's great over the middle as a receiver. He's great as a vertical threat. He's great in the end zone. Like, he's great at everything. So if I'm him, I'm confident in my abilities. Even if I'm not him, like I personally, Kevin Borba, host of Locked On Buffs, am confident that Travis Hunter has a chance. I just don't know if it's going to be how he imagined. That being said, that's what the combine is for, right? And he'll have a chance to showcase his skills. He's going to be partaking in the Big 12 showcase or pro day, excuse me. And I think that'll give teams another chance it'll give teams a chance to see him up close and personal if they haven't already. The good thing about Coach Prime in Colorado is there was guys at every single game. There were scouts at practices. Like, teams have seen Travis a little bit, or at least a lot, or I think a lot. They should know what he is, right? They just have to figure out how they can use him. And it'll be interesting to see if he talks again with the receivers. Excuse me, I have the hiccups now. It'll be interesting to see just overall what the vibe is. And according to Adam Schefter, it's super important for Travis to be the number 1 pick in April's draft, and he's ready and willing and uniquely. This is Adam Schefter's report. Sorry, extremely weird, worded weirdly. Travis Hunter said Thursday it is super important to him to be the number 1 pick in April's NFL draft, and that he is ready, willing, and uniquely able to play on both sides of the ball in his professional career. We'll see what happens. Right, anything can happen. It takes one team. That quote that he gave, it didn't sound like that's the feedback he was getting, but again, maybe I was reading too much into it. When we come back, I'm going to be telling you guys about the 3 teams that I really like, or at least think need more consideration for one Mr. Shedeur Sanders. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Roy. Attention Locked On Buffs fans, attention Colorado fans, the future of college sports is here and it's transparent. Before the Roy app, NIL negotiations often happened under the table and fans didn't have a clear way to directly support the athletes they love. Now with Roy, you get to be a part of the change and support Colorado athletes in the most transparent way. Roy, the NIL app, allows you to choose the player you want to support, decide how much you want to contribute, receive exclusive content from the athletes you back. The best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. It's a risk-free way to show your support. The Roy app is giving fans control, no more uncertainty. Now you can provide transparent, impactful support and help shape the team and the future of college sports with your contributions. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing Colorado athletes the way they deserve with transparency, trust, and a real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite players. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen. We're almost at 7,000 subscribers. Let's get there. We're like 20 away. Let's get there. We're so close. So share this with a friend. Share this with your mom, your dog. I don't care. Share it with someone so that way we continue to grow. Let's talk about it. The NFL draft combine is happening right now, and I think there's at least not a lot of people know about this or are aware of this. The order of operations, goes NFL free agency, March 12th, NFL draft, April 24th, I think it is. It's in 56 days. So free agency is going to happen before the draft, which means teams are going to be pursuing guys like, say, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, whoever it is, Matthew Stafford maybe, before they really hone in on the draft, right? So the draft process sort of tells teams like, hey, are we bought in on, say, Shedeur Sanders? We'll use Shedeur as an example. Are we bought in enough on Shedeur Sanders to not go out and trade for Matthew Stafford? I'm looking at the Raiders right now. The Raiders are viewed as like the heavy favorites to land Matthew Stafford from the Los Angeles Rams in the trade. He went skiing with Tom Brady. Whether or not they met there or not, I don't know. If you guys didn't know this, sit up for a fun little story time. Jordan Schultz reports that Tom Brady invited Matthew Stafford to Montana. They went skiing together, something along those lines. Ian Rappaport said they happened to run into each other. Apparently, Jordan didn't like that he went against his report. The two got into a little, not a skirmish, but a little spat at a Starbucks in Indianapolis. So clearly there's some intensity going on there. That being said, back to what I was saying. I just figured everyone loves a good little spat story, and it sounds like two NFL insiders are kind of going at it. So maybe we'll see a little pow pow, little 1-2, little who knows? That being said, sorry, let me dial back in. ADHD there. Let me dial in. Colorado's quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, I think his landing spot is highly dependent on what other teams do, right? If the Rams trade Matthew Stafford to the Raiders, one, I don't think they're going to get the Raiders' 6th pick. Two, the Raiders aren't going to need a quarterback anymore, right? So that takes them out. The Giants have been linked to a bunch of quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is in the mix. So a lot of the possibilities I'm seeing is Stafford to the Raiders, Rodgers to the Rams, and then that leaves the Jets open. So that leaves me with my first team. Mel Kiper sort of floated this out the other day. Didn't make sense, but now that I'm seeing this chain of events unfold, it's like, okay, it makes a little bit more sense, right? New York Jets are marquee market. Wow, that makes marquee market. Hopefully that makes sense. They're a big market team. They've had issues at quarterback, right? They have a new head coach in Aaron Glenn, who I think a lot of people are excited about. The Lions were one of the hottest teams in the NFL this past year, and crazy enough stat that I saw somewhere. I think it was USA Today wrote this. The Lions had both of their coordinators got head coaching jobs. Ben Johnson to the Bears, and then obviously Aaron Glenn to the Jets. It was the first time since JFK was president that the Lions had an assistant coach be promoted to a head coach. I thought that was crazy. That being said, the Jets have some weapons, right? They have a good run game. They have Breece Hall. They have Braylon Allen. They have Garrett Wilson. They have weapons, right? So Shedeur Sanders would have weapons around him. Now, offensive line would be pretty interesting. I think their offensive line's kind of weak, which, I mean, Shedeur Sanders, if anyone's used to it, right, would be him. His offensive line's been terrible. He's been sacked over, I think it's 94 times in the past 2 years, which is pretty crazy. He's been sacked over 100 times in his college football career. So I like the weapons around him. I like the young head coach or new head coach. I don't know if he's young, I would say, but new head coach, new energy. So the Jets are one. The Saints are another team. And reports today, I tweeted this yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday that I liked the fit for the Saints, because let me just run you through the list right now. Here's the list of top teams that are picking, and I'll share my screen with you for those of you who are viewing this. We got the Tennessee Titans at 1. They want a generational talent. Is that talent going to be Shedeur Sanders? Is that talent going to be Travis Hunter? I don't know. Like, we don't know what they're saying. I think Abdul Carter is sort of inching towards that number 1 spot, right? The Penn State pass rusher. I think the Titans and the Browns would both take him if he was there, right? So the Titans are sort of the wild card, because if they go quarterback, then maybe the Browns ride with Jameis Winston for another year, sign him, getting the hiccups, draft Abdul Carter, trade Myles Garrett to get a bunch or I don't know if they could make a move for Myles Garrett now, but you know what I'm saying? They need to replace Myles Garrett. And I don't know what they would do. The Giants at 3 is where I think quarterbacks are very much in play. That being said, if they get Matthew Stafford, they don't need a quarterback. The Patriots, they're out of play for Shedeur. They have Drake May. Jaguars, same thing. The Raiders, depends on what they do, right? If they sign a free agent, who knows if they take a quarterback at 6. Maybe they wait another year to try to get Arch Manning or DJ Lagway in 2 years from now. Whatever they do, right? The Raiders are in a weird spot. Pete Carroll is an old head coach, though, so does he want to be a part of a rebuild or does he want to win right away? I don't know. The Jets, they're the one team that screams rebuild in this range that makes sense to me, that isn't linked to another quarterback. Panthers have a quarterback. And then we go to number 9, the Saints, right? I called this yesterday, I think it was, like I was saying. And Dalton Wasserman at PFF agreed with me. So that was exciting. I said the New York Jets were the number 1 team, the New Orleans Saints, and then the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are the wild card because who knows what they or the Titans do with whatever they decide, right? We don't know what they're going to do. But what we do know is that according to, I think it was Spot Rack, they don't expect Derek Carr to be back in New Orleans. So, and this is the report, Derek Carr has been paid $60 million by the Saints over the past 2 seasons, but New Orleans has only accounted for $19.8 million of the cap for Derek Carr over the past 2 seasons. The Saints are not only likely to keep Derek Carr in 2025, but are almost certain to convert his compensation to a bonus again. So the Saints have a lot of financial issues. They've been meeting with quarterbacks, right? So I think this screams they're trying to figure out a way to move on from Derek Carr. That's what it means to me, right? Shedeur Sanders had a Saints hat on his backpack. The Saints have met with Cam Ward. I think the Saints might be in the quarterback business, and that'd be a good position for either quarterback because you don't have to play right away. So I like the Jets. I like the Browns. I like the Saints for Shedeur Sanders. We'll see what ends up happening come April and come free agency, but I think there's some noise to be followed there. We'll just put it that way. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Colorado's recruiting extravaganza, recruiting boom, if you will. This episode of Locked On Buffs, it's brought to you by Fabric by Gerber Life. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day, you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day, so protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric, MEET, fabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Price is subject to underwriting and health questions. Fabric by Gerber Life. Compliance do's and don'ts. Make sure that you have Fabric in your life, right? I mean, you got to. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Let's talk recruiting. Colorado is trying to make some noise, and I think they're on the right track. Let's start with the biggest one. I think it is Cedric Morgan, wide receiver. I think I'm saying his name correctly. Hope I am. 2026 5-star wide receiver, plays basketball. He hoops. He runs track. Ranked as the number 17 player in 24/7 Sports Composite, number 10 player overall, number 2 wide receiver in the country. He seems like a dog. 6'4", 210. This is his scouting report. Just shy of 6'4" with a thick frame, growth potential at another 15 to 20 pounds. Highly productive, yards after the catch, utilizes his size and frame well at the catch point, displays natural pass catching ability. He's a multiple sport athlete, can run track, does a little bit of everything. And the Colorado Buffaloes are getting him for a visit. Now, I think this is a big deal, right? I think I talked about this before. You want to get weapons around Julian Lewis. You want to sort of entice other recruits to come so that way you are getting as much talent as possible. He's going to be in Boulder on May 9th through the 11th. their coaching staff and feeling their energy. They are sitting as one of the tops in my recruitment. So, Colorado, make some noise. Get a 5-star, huh? That would be technically it would be Deion Sanders' first 5-star receiver. He's got a quarterback, corner, or 2-way star. We'll call it athlete, Travis. Corner, or we have quarterback, left tackle, 2-way star, corner. Right. So what's next? Right. I think it's receiver. Right. I think it's only a matter of time before Coach Prime convinces a skill guy on offense to head on over to Boulder. Next name, we're going back to receiver. His name is Jace Matthews. He is also a highly touted recruit from the South. 4-star. He's from Mississippi. 147th player in the country. 23rd receiver overall. 6'1.5". We'll call him 6'2", 182. He's got programs like Miami, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Auburn, Ole Miss. They're all coming after him. And I think Colorado is another program who he's interested in. He locked in an official visit. And I think having the previous Heisman winner coming out of Colorado, I can't wait to get up and enter that atmosphere. So he's going to be in Boulder May 9th through the 11th. So that weekend, Colorado's going to have 2 of the best receivers in the country on campus at the same time. You go one of 2, that's really good. You go 2 of 2, oh, baby, that's great, right? If Coach Prime gets both of these guys, that's a huge win. Now let's go to the trenches. They're getting Zayden Kremplin, 24/7 Sports, offensive tackle, 238th player in the country, 6'4", 270 from Prosper, Texas. 50 offers, programs like Texas, LSU, Michigan. He's interested in Colorado. He's another guy that I think that they're trying to make a push for. Now, when it comes to offensive linemen, Colorado needs a bunch of them, right? You need to make sure that this offense line is juiced up for years to come. So that way you don't have to constantly dip into the portal with these 1-year rental guys. And then lastly, Joseph Pecco. If that last name sounds familiar, it's because his father is the new defense line coach. And he's a 3-star guy, 6'3", 310 from Oaks Christian, which is in Southern California. He's ranked as the 740th player in the country. I think this is one that Colorado should feel confident about, right? His father, D'Amato, is now the Colorado coach. They also offered his brother, I think he's a DB at the JUCO level. So clearly Colorado is trying to get a little bit of home cooking in there. Make sure to be like, hey, come play for your dad, right? Who wouldn't want to do that, right? We've had success with that. Shiloh, Shedeur, Mathis. I mean, the son hasn't played a lot, but he's there, right? So Colorado's making some noise in recruiting. It feels like every day they're getting more official visits. So I'll make sure to keep you guys covered on that. We'll have another recruiting insider come on the show so that way we could dive into those recruiting battles even more. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Get me to 7,000 subscribers so we can continue to grow the show. I will see you guys tomorrow. I hope all of you have a great Thursday evening. Slow pitch softball game. Wish me luck.